Hello everybody, this is Crazy Cube Dude here, and I'm going to be starting my official read-through of BioShock Rapture. I'm starting at the very beginning with the prologue, as you can see. And, well, you can't really see it, but anyways, here we go. Jump right into it. You are only going to be seeing my face, not the actual book, but it doesn't matter. Okay, let's adjust this a little bit here. Yes, that's better. Prologue, 5th Avenue, New York City. Sullivan, chief of security, found the great man standing in front of the enormous window in his corporate office. The boss was, here's our first instance of a word that I'm not able to pronounce it. My apologies for all future words that I cannot pronounce. I am only a 14-year-old middle school student, so, yeah. Here we go. It is silhouetted, I'll try my best to pronounce them, against city lights. The only other illumination was from a green-shaded lamp on the big glass-topped desk across the room, so that the great man was mostly in shadow, hands in the pockets of his crisply tailored suit jacket as he gazed broodingly out at the skyline. It was 8 o'clock, and Chief Sullivan, a tired middle-aged man in a rain-dampened suit, badly wanted to go home, kick off his shoes, and listen to the fight on the radio. But the great man often worked late, and he'd been waiting for these two reports. One report in particular, Sullivan wanted to have done with the one from Japan. It was a report that made him want a stiff drink and fast, but he knew the great man wouldn't offer him one. The great man was how Sullivan thought of his boss, one of the richest, most powerful men in the world. The term was both sarcastic and serious, and Sullivan kept it to himself. The great man was vain and quick to sense the slightest disrespect, yet sometimes it seemed the tycoon was casting about for a friend he could take to heart. Sullivan was not that man. People rarely liked him much. Something about ex-cops. "Well, Sullivan," the great man asked, not turning from the window, "do you have them?" "I have them both, sir. Let's have the report on the strikes first. Get it out of the way. The other one," he shook his head. "That'll be like hiding from a hurricane in a cellar. We'll have to dig the cellar first, so to speak." Sullivan wondered what he meant by the cellar remark, but he let it go. "The strikes, they're still going on at the Kentucky mines and the Mississippi refinery." The great man grimaced. His shoulders, angularly padded on the current stile, slumped over so slightly. "We've got to be tougher than this, Sullivan, for the country's good as well as our own." "Sir, I have sent in strike breakers. I've sent Pinkerton men to get names on the strike leaders, see if we can get something on them. But these people are persistent, a hard-nosed bunch. Have you been out there in person? Did you go to Kentucky or Mississippi, Chief?" You need not await permission from me to take personal action. Not on this. Unions, they had their own little army in Russia. They called them workers' militias. Do you know who these strikers are? They are agents of the Reds, Sullivan. Soviet agents. And what is it they demand? Why, better wages and work conditions. What is that but socialism? Leeches. I had no need of unions. I made my own way. Sullivan knew that the great man had the benefit of luck. He'd struck oil as a young man, but it was true he'd invested brilliantly. I'll see to them myself, sir. The great man reached out and touched the glass wall, remembering, I came here from Russia as a boy. The Bolsheviks had just taken the place over. We barely got out alive. I won't see the sickness spread. No, sir. And the other report? It's true, isn't it? Both cities are almost entirely destroyed. One bomb apiece. The great man shook his head in wonder. Just one bomb? For a whole city? Sullivan stepped closer, opened one of the envelopes, handed over the photographs. The great man held the glossy photographs to the window so he could make them out in the twinkling light of the skyline. They are fairly sharp black and white snaps of the devastation of Hiroshima, mostly seen from the air. The city lights were caught on their glossy surface, as if somehow the thrusting boldness of New York's skyline had itself destroyed Hiroshima. Our man in the State Department smuggled this out for us, Sullivan went on. Some in the target cities were atomized, blown to bits, hundreds of thousands dead or dying in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Oh yeah, there we go. A great many more dying from, he read aloud from one of the reports he'd brought, flash burns, radiation burns, and trauma. It is expected that the equal amount will be dead of radiation sickness and possibly cancer in another 12 months or so. So this really is a war. People are dying all over the place, just not by guns. It's like if the Hulk from Marvel didn't survive the gamma radiation thing. Cancer caused by this weapon? Yes, sir. It's not yet confirmed, but based on the past experiments, they say it's likely. I see. Are we indeed certain that the Soviets are developing such weapons? They're working on it. The great man snorted ruefully. Two gigantic empires, two great octopi struggling with one another, and equipped with monstrous weapons. Just one bomb to destroy an entire city. These bombs will only get bigger and more powerful. What do you suppose will happen in time, Sullivan? Atomic war is what some are saying. I feel certain of it. It'll destroy us all. Still, there is another possibility for some of us. Yes, sir? I despise what this civilization is becoming, Sullivan. First the Bolsheviks, then Roosevelt, Truman carrying on much of what Roosevelt began. I guess he's referring to Teddy Roosevelt. Little men on the backs of great ones. It will only stop when real men stand up and say, no more. Sullivan nodded, shivering. At times the great man could convey the power of his inner conviction, almost like a lightning rod transmitting a mighty burst of electricity. There was an undeniable power around him. After a moment, the great man looked curiously at Sullivan, as if wondering how much he could be trusted. At last his employer said, My mind is made up, Sullivan. I shall move ahead on a project I was toying with. It will no longer be a toy. It will be a glorious reality. I guess the great man must be Andrew Ryan, and I guess the project he's talking about must be Rapture. I don't know. That's what I can gather, at least. It entitles Great Risk, but it must be done, and you may as well know now it will take perhaps every penny I have to make it happen. Sullivan blinked. Every penny? What extreme was his boss going to now? The great man chuckled, evidently enjoying Sullivan's astonishment. Oh yes, at first it was an experiment, little more than a hypothesis, a game. I already have the drawings for a smaller version, but it could be bigger, much bigger. It is the solution to a gigantic problem. The union problem? Sullivan asked, puzzled. No, well, yes, in the long run. Unions too. But I was thinking a more pressing problem. the potential destruction of civilization. The problem, Sullivan, is the inevitability of atomic war. The inevitability calls for a gigantic solution. I've sent out explorers and I picked the spot, but I wasn't sure I would ever give it the go-ahead. Well, I'm going to stop this video right here. I'm going to be recording another one right after this. So see you for part 2. This is quite interesting.